G'day. Welcome to the AgriCoach podcast for families on the land who want to grow their family's wealth and prosperity across the generations. I'm your host, Ben Law, and I'm the financial bloke. You've probably noticed that we've had a bit of a change on the podcast from the Financial Bloke podcast to the AgriCoach podcast, brought to you by the Financial Bloke. It's the exact same host, me, the exact same content, and the exact same objective. It's just a simple name change, nothing more. So now that we've sorted that out, let's get cracking. Well, today is an absolute cracker of an episode, and I'm super excited to have got it all put together and ready to go out. It was recorded in front of a live audience at Beef in Rockhampton this year, and I interviewed the Lord family, which is Ardie, Kacie, Jade, and Nikko. Why am I so excited about this? Well, not only have they gone through a succession plan, but in my estimates, they've done a bloody good job of it. And I think there's some gold nuggets in here for anyone who's thinking about doing a succession plan or is in a succession plan. You know, the key things that families need to be doing if they want their succession plan to actually work. Now, we had 200 to 300 people in the room. It was standing room only. There were people lined up out towards the bar across the street and couldn't get in. And you could have heard a pin drop over the whole hour. Everyone was totally focused. And the feedback that came back was amazing. Everyone couldn't wait for the audio to come out. So if you're going to go through a succession plan or you need to have a listen to this. And if you know anyone else that might be going through a succession plan, either now or in the future, share the copy, let them know, because this is the episode in my career that I really wanted to capture when I first started. I thought if I can capture a really successful succession plan and then share the gold nuggets, I'll have ticked off a big goal. And so I think we've done this with this episode. Just wanted to say before we kick this off that the audio is not 100% tip-top quality. And the reason is because it's recorded in front of a live audience and we can't control it. Now, normally when I do a podcast, if the audio's not good, we re-record it, we leave it on the cutting room floor. But in this case, the audio's not perfect, but the content is exceptional. So be patient with it. There's going to be a few places where you miss things. Just take your time and stick with it. I can promise you it will be well worth it. So without further delay, let's get cracking.
I think this has been one of the really anticipated events that Rabo's put on, and I can see why. I think we're going to have a great time today, and what I want you to all do is think of some questions at the end, because I know all three are pretty keen to have some questions answered, aren't they? Now, first off, I'm going to have my notes here I'm going to be referring to. I'm normally doing a podcast, so I'm sitting in a room, a dark room, on my own, with a video screen interviewing. I've never usually got 200 or 300 people in a room, so you'll have to forgive me for that. So therefore, Ardie, you can have your notes too. It's perfectly okay. I want to thank Rabo for putting the event on. I think they do a great job educating everyone from the land, and this is so different. And especially I want to thank Genevieve, where's Genevieve? Hiding at the back, head of marketing. She was the one that approached me late last year and said, hey, I think we might do a podcast type episode with everyone on succession. And I've got some great ideas. So I just want to say thanks to Jen for that. Now, today we're going to be talking about succession. Now, succession is one of those topics that quite often when you speak to people about it, it's one of the biggest issues in the rural community these days. And I quite often think it's one of those things that's being done to death. You know, there's webinars, there's newsletters, there's workshops, and most of the time when people talk about succession, it's always doom and gloom and I can't get this to work. And I think it's a reality that it's tough for the rural industry, and the reason it's tough is because it's usually due to a complex array of problems, and there's no silver bullet. And I think it has to be stated that it's difficult to do, but it's not impossible. And I think having the Lord family here today is going to be a real insight into how you can go about making a succession in your business work. Now, when Jen first mentioned we were going to do this podcast, I said, well, who are you going to get to do it? And she mentioned the Lord family. And I think I said to Jen, she's around the back, I said, that'll be a cracker of an episode if you can get them here. And I know it's a big ask. And I want you all to sort of take a moment just to reflect on the fact of how difficult it is or how brave it is to be able to get up in front of everyone here. Sorry, I don't want to make you too nervous. No, sure. But it's a big thing to get up here and talk about family dynamics and family succession, because seldom do they ever go perfectly. and there's always going to be bumps in the road. So I just want to start off with is say to all of the family here is I sincerely appreciate the fact that you're willing to invest not only the time, but to expose your family and what you've been through over that time. So thank you. But the second thing is when I first spoke to everyone here is I have to say they were really humble about this. They made it really clear from the start. They said, Ben, we're going through this process ourselves. We've been going through it for 20-something years and we haven't always got it right. You know, we've had difficult times. Some things have worked, some things haven't worked. We've had to get outside help. I know RCS, David McLean over there, has had a big impact on the family and they don't have all the answers. I think that was really clear. So today is about what worked for them. Hopefully you take away some gold nuggets and really appreciate it's been done. Now, for those of you who don't know who the Lord family is, Lord Pastoral runs around 20,000 head of cattle. Now, the foundation of the business was laid by Ardie and Kacie back in the day, whose hard work and dedication really set the foundations for the business. And now we have Nikko and Jade. Jade, you can see a picture. You'll hear from her on video because she couldn't be here today to talk about her side of the story being a city girl. But they've also got their 3 children, Jocko, Sandy and Ruben. I've got those right. I think I originally left Ruby off. As we said, Jade's a city girl. So she was born in the city. And for those of you who know the Lords, you know that they were a farmer once in life success story. We're not going to go into that today, but they're one truly great story to come out of that. But having someone not from the bush come back onto the land does add some challenges. I'm sure out there you're all dealing with that sort of thing. But it also adds a unique perspective and some real value to the family. Now, the family's built scale. They didn't start with scale, but they've built scale. They've got non-family owners of some of the assets in the business. They've got siblings that are off farm. They've got strong, driven personalities. I think that'd be right, Nikko, wouldn't it? Strong, driven personalities. So passionate. So they've probably gone through most of the problems, or some of the problems you've got through. And also the last thing is there's Jade's got 2 off-farm siblings, Zara and Ali, and I think Ali's here. Is it Ali's in the crowd? Zara. Oh, no, Zara. Hello, Zara. How are you? Zara's in the crowd here today. Ali's working. Yep. And while she's not actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, she's still integrally involved in the family, and the family's integrally involved in her life business opportunities, which Ardie's going to talk about today. Now, without further delay, we're going to kick off. Now, we're going to start with Ardie. Ardie's going to be the spokesman to start this off. And when I went through and interviewed the family, I got out the pen because I like writing notes. I'm a real note taker. And usually it's with a thick Nikko pen and it's in colours and it's like a child's study. But I like to go through and I hit with them all, didn't I, Kacie, with question. And I came out with all these gold nuggets. And then I went back and showed them and said, I reckon the best thing we could do is take each of those gold nuggets and then talk about them. So hopefully you can take it today. Now, the first one we wanted to talk about was clarity of roles, vision, and structured accountability in a business. Now, one of the major problems I see with families in business is that they just can't seem to get everyone on the same page, singing from the same song sheet, all rowing together. And then finding that alignment and then also keeping that alignment in the family is tough. So, Ardie, what I'd like you to address, mate, is how difficult was it for you to get aligned as a family, and then how did you eventually get there?
I think the first thing I'd ask is, who did have a family to run a business? You know, it's a whole basket full of emotions, a melting pot of stories and seeing, and yet we take it on all the time.
Today's episode is brought to you by AgriCoach. You've worked bloody hard over the years and you've built a solid operation. But as your children grow up and start their own journeys, you're beginning to think about the next 5, 10, and even 15 years and how to keep driving the business forward and ensure a smooth and successful succession plan. Preparing the business, preparing the next generation, and preparing for your eventual retirement all requires a solid plan and a proven process. Unsure about the right steps to take? Head on over to agricoach.com.au/webinar to learn more about our Succession Proof Your Family webinar. AgriCoach, aligning families, growing wealth, and protecting legacies. And now, let's get back to the episode.
So when Nikko came back from his university, particularly his Marcus Oldham, who's about 10 years of underground, we had to work together. We're very similar personalities. We're both risk takers, we're both impatient, and we're both swanlanders. So luckily, we brought Dave McLean onto the board, and one of the first things we did was establish some clear controls, some clear values, clear breaches of values, and a clear vision and a clear direction. And it certainly gave us some grandpacks to run with. That's probably the process which we operated in business, but the real journey started for us probably 23 years ago, and I think that's where the journey starts. It really starts when they're 0 to 7, but it really started having family meetings when the kids were 9, 10, 11, 12. They were simple meetings about setting some goals. This is our position. The youngest daughter was terrified about that. We always teased that that's what you're getting. So, but it set a framework for our family to communicate. It set a framework for where this is the space you go to when you want to know what's coming out.
Now, one of the things, Ardie, I find is many families don't involve their children. They say they're too young, it's not age appropriate, how do we bring them in? Are you a strong advocate of bringing the children in along?
Absolutely. I mean, our job's pretty done with this generation. You know, we're at Salford. We've just moved back up to north for so many months a year because we've got 3 little ones between 2 and 7. That's what we're getting once, and had a lot of fun doing it. So our job, I think, is they're like a football coach. You know, these guys are, and Elliot and Nikko, are very much on the page, running a business, is doing their stuff. We act as a mentor. I think our Lynn Sykes summed it up the other day beautifully, the silent elder. I'm just not very silent, so it's not always good. Yeah, that's very much our role at this stage, is more just mentoring in business.
So I'm guessing it was all smooth sailing.
Yeah, there was a few times that a few storm-offs and a few not being to work together. I mean, it was a bit of an impossible journey, having 2 personalities with a genetic problem. But I always have a good belief that business is there to succeed. In the corporate world, it's a very clean model. They just employ the best, take on the next headhunt, and go forward. And in families, we don't. So we have a role of educating and mentoring the next generation, and then stepping back. And I think the other big thing to move to is, what do we do? What's our purpose? What's our direction? And getting clear about that. It's not just a financial bit of a plan, you know, we'll shove a few assets here and all that, or this. It's really about the people. And that journey's the lifelong journey.
Thanks, Ardie. What do you got to say about Nikko? Because apparently you're just the same as Dad, but difficult to deal with by the sound of it.
I don't know if I had a choice. I think it's just a product of my environment. They were very young age. I was very grateful, and I think now that I'm a parent, I look back and I'm more appreciative and more grateful than ever for what my parents have done for us. They housed us, they educated us, but they taught us to work. They taught us, to be fair. They taught us the difference between a need and a want. And over the little kids, and my sister attested to this, we'd want a soft drink and Dad would say, hold your nose, tell me whether you need air or you want air. He'd say, oh no, I want a soft drink. So we sort of solved a few things like that. But those little things that I feel like success was all from when we were little kids. And it enabled us to be able to all stay in the room together when things got tough, get trained. I really do. I just think all that hard work was done back then, and it was still tough. We go back through all those dry years, and I came back from college, and all this ambition, and still on a hangover, and I learned very quickly the difference between knowledge and wisdom. You come out of college and you think you do have the world at your feet, but had I been let go to go and do what I want, I didn't have that wisdom around me. I don't know how quick I would have crashed and burned it, but I reckon I probably would have made it too long. But at the same time, we were an awesome team, with his wisdom and my energy. And I was also very fortunate to come into a family that was very progressive. And I think that is also very important for a lot of young people. We have a strong regenerative approach, which is the big buzzword these days. And so it was very sexy to come in and be doing this sort of stuff. From my perspective, like I said, a product of the environment. I don't think I had a choice.
Yeah, thanks, Nikko. I think that's fairly true, but there's been, listening to you guys and talking off before this, is the thing that became really clear for me was Ardie and Kacie are really focused on the grandkids. You know, it's like we see it as we have a custodial role to actually play in helping those grandkids grow up and be involved in the kids' life, which I think is really, really commendable as well. So, thanks to go. Now, communication and connection. My stats, and remember 95% of stats are made up on the spot. My stats tell me that about 60% of succession players fail because of the failure of communication and failure of trust, or a breakdown of trust. And when I first started chatting to Kacie, I think you said something along the lines of, oh, Ben, I absolutely love all things communication connections. I could talk for days. And so I'm treating the gauntlet here because I'm going to ask you a question about this. And we've got, we don't have all day. So communication. Why is connection and communication so important to you, Kacie? And how did you embrace that with the family, and especially the children?
Ben, thank you, and it's so good to see so many people here to listen to this topic. And as I think Ben said before, we haven't got it all right, and we're a long way. We're only halfway through the journey, so we're just sharing a little bit of what we've learned. I just want to put something to you. We can build an empire, we can build a huge empire, but what I got clear about many years ago was, what is the point of an empire if we're sitting at the table by ourselves? In the mid-90s, we were part of Executive Link, which is run by RCS. And we had a great few days, and we'd set some amazing goals. And just to bring us back down to earth and get us on track for what was important, Jerry McCausker said, I want to tell you all about the Pluto principle. And he said, I want you to imagine that Pluto is going to crash into your Earth tomorrow. What would you all do? Would you go and ring the bank manager and make sure that your assets were intact? What were you going to do about interest rates? To a person, I think there was probably 300 people in the room, 299 said they'd go to the family. One wag said they'd go to the pub and ring the family. But out of that, I just got 100% clear that the most important thing in our lives was our family. And then I put into the mix my family history, and I grew up in a beautiful family, very solid mum and dad. But to be really candid, we were all about looking good. We were never encouraged to discuss anything in the family that was difficult. My mother even said to me one day, darling, it'll do you no good going into all this psychology business. But I persisted because I just felt that there was something in our family that was missing. And what was missing was the honest conversations. And I was really determined that we were going to bring those honest conversations to our family. I didn't know how we were going to do it, but Ardie and I were going to do it. And then I remember Lynn Sykes said to us at one stage, she mentioned something about family meetings, and I thought that sounded like a really good idea. So we started family meetings when Alexandra was 9, I think Zara might have been 11, and Nikko 12, 13. We wrote out an agenda, and Ardie gave the kids a very clear idea about what our financial position was. But as he said, it blew Alexandra out of the water. And we still had the minutes for that meeting. And we've continued to have family meetings over the years. But what we did at that meeting was set the framework for this is how we communicate. If you have a need in this family, then this is the platform that you bring that need to discuss. Not, as happened in my family, when there was a need, one sister would ring the other, then the other, she'd ring the other, and so it would go around, and finally that need would get back to mum and dad. Really distorted stuff. So what we did at that first meeting was to say to the kids, when you have a need, this is how it rolls, this is what you do. The other thing we developed was we talked about this is where if you want to bring something up about somebody, this is the place to do it. We talked about gossip and what gossip is in a family, in a small community, and how destructive it is. And out of that came something that runs our family, which is that the conversations are with the person involved, not about the person involved. And that means that every time there's something to be discussed, it goes to the person involved. And those sort of things, that framework has been really good for our family. From that, I believe that has actually set the foundations for what Ardie has done with the structure of succession. And it's one thing to have a great structure of succession, but if you don't have a family that's communicating, what is the point of it? We have some pretty bloody conversations, but everybody stays at the table until that conversation is resolved. And I think that's been really good for our family. The other thing that has been really important for us is we've all done the same education. In the early days of doing, Ardie and I did all the RCS stuff together, so I actually knew what he was thinking about. I knew the people that he was talking to. We were on the same page. Then we started doing personal development, and that for our whole family has been really gold, because we've learned to have a little bit of what's called emotional intelligence around our discussions. We know what it is to have a difficult conversation. So for all of you married couples, families, take your family with you through education.
Thanks, Kacie. It's fantastic. So that leads perfectly into the next question, which is for young Nikko. Family problems. Every family has problems. And in my experience, a disagreement avoided, a confrontation avoided, is a disagreement magnified. Nobody ever does well kicking the can down the road. I think Nikko would agree. And one of the most striking things the family said when I first met and started talking to them was they said, it's far too easy to run away from family problems, which touches on what Kacie said there. So Nikko, from your perspective, mate, how critical was it for you guys to tackle those family problems when they came up, rather than just kicking the can down the side?
I don't think it was that tough for us, to be honest. I feel like we were held pretty accountable from a very young age, but we very much have had the rule that we do not go to sleep on a problem. And we're very passionate. We yell, we scream. We try to minimise it, I suppose, but it does happen. It doesn't really happen. But we're very passionate. We stand up for what we believe. We're very passionate cattle. We're very passionate farmers, grass farmers. We're very passionate, finances. So we're all a bit righteous in that area, which isn't a bad thing. I believe, though, it doesn't get toxic. We're very quick to stand up and call each other out. But it just minus the swear words, we managed to keep that out of it, and we are able to have conversations. And it's actually tough, if we get new crew around us, it can be tough sometimes because they look at it and think we're about unsure. But we're not. We're actually just very good at who will say there, we look at each other in the eye, we'll have the conversation we need to have. And as I said, if we get to the point where the swear words start coming out, we'll take 5 and we'll cool down and we'll go, so we've got these templates that we picked up from these courses that we're aiming to do. I don't think we could have done this ourselves. Even with having 2 amazing mentors, it was the outside help that we've got as advisors, the courses that we've done, and multiple, it's just like going to the gym. You go to a gym session, and you feel great for the next few days, and then like a week later you're back on the same thing. But it's that muscle memory and going with that repetitive training of the brain and going and doing it where sometimes takes a bit longer to pick up. But so that was, I think, the big game changer for us.
Now I'm guessing by having formal family meetings to go, you'd be able to have those conversations about those disagreements in a more formal setting to be able to take a lot of these out. Is that correct?
100%. We've had 2 quite large family succession meetings in the last 2 years, and we're going into it, because society tells you how scary succession meetings are, and we came out of it, and it was just the most, it was actually a really, we were nearly all good years and whatnot, but it was just a really enjoyable process to, everyone was just talking, and those needs, sometimes we didn't agree with those needs, but it was, and like I said, that comes back just to that we weren't going into that meeting carrying baggage about who blew a mob last week.
Thanks, Nikko. Now, Brendan, can we get the video playing just at the end of this? Jade's, as we mentioned, the city girl. So she comes not from the country, and she's married into a farming family, and using the farm once a wife, it was, I'm guessing, back because of the fire. It's amazing the amount of families I see these days where they have a husband or a wife that comes out and they say they're from the city, they're not from the country, and then there's inherently some problems to that. So I thought we wanted to bring Jade in, be involved, and so we recorded this the other day. It's just a quick couple of minutes, so hopefully everyone can hear. They're not always funny.
In my experience, Jade, a lot of families struggle with their son or daughter getting into a relationship with someone who doesn't come from an ag background. And it's often a really agitating factor for the family and quite often turns into a deal breaker. And I'm guessing there's probably been some times, or there was a time when you thought you were going to have to tell Nikko, this mightn't be the life for me. So how hard was it for you to come back to the family and integrate into the system, shall I say?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging at the beginning, moving from the beach to the bush and stepping into this way of life with all the traditions attached. And I did have to go and speak to Nikko about a year into it and talk to him about how I was trying to understand and navigate my way, but then also bring about balance so I could keep honouring myself and my purpose and passion. So, yeah, lots of communication at the beginning.
Were Ardie and Kacie open and welcoming to you coming into the family and being involved? And was there a level of trust straight away?
Yeah, I've been really lucky, to be honest. And like I said, that first year that I moved out here, I hit quite a few bumps and I really struggled with finding my feet. And there would be lots of tears in the paddock or tears when I come home and just going like, what am I doing and how do I do this?
Must be crazy.
Yeah. And no one back home had any idea of what I was doing. But I'm really grateful because one, Nikko he actually kept challenging me to step further and teaching me along the way. So a huge learning, like I said, staying in the jewellery role and teaching me along the way. Kacie was always there at the end of the day with a glass of champagne and we would sit on the front veranda and I would just be able to talk about what was coming up for me, what my challenges were. And she was a great ear for that to help me shift those paradigms as well of my beliefs. And then Ardie was incredible with opening up his incredible knowledge on the business and the accounts and the financials and why we do what we do, why they did what they did. And so right from the beginning, I guess they gave me an opportunity to learn and to grow with them.
So if you were talking to a family out there that say had their son in this example, or it could be a daughter with a son-in-law, if they've got a daughter or son-in-law that's come from a non-farming background and moved out on the farm, what's the advice you'd give them to make sure that gives that person the best chance, or that family the best chance to get a successful outcome?
I guess firstly, you and the partner really being solid in the greater vision and why you're on the land, why he's asked that person to come back to the land and the journey that he wants or they want to go on. And then secondly, asking questions and just, even if it's not something you've ever done before, which is definitely my story, in completely left field, I think it's really important to know and understand why farmers do what they do and, why they love their land and why they love their animals. And I guess involve yourself in the business and keep asking questions because, I think that way then you're opening up the communications lines. They see that you're interested and your growth. And we all have something that we can contribute to the business. Like I said, I'm not from the background, but there's areas skills that I have that I've been able to integrate and then to also help Nikko and I's business and the greater business with Kacie and Ardie. So everybody has something that they can contribute. So just keep asking questions and then over time, you've always got some add value.
And as you mentioned, communicate. Bring them in, keep them involved, ask questions. And I love what Kacie did. Sit down with you every day and have a conversation on the veranda. Shows you care, but also too is able to help you adjust to the scenario.
Okay, so the technology worked. I must have done something right. I was a bit worried about that, whether it would work. There's a couple of cuts in there because we had to keep it a little bit shorter than we needed to. So, Kacie, I think, you know, a bit of the stuff we cut out, she really focused on how you guys, you know, always were welcoming, and you started from a level of trust. So there was like, it wasn't that you're guilty until proven innocent, you're innocent until proven guilty. I think it was really lovely, and I think she really appreciated that, and that added a huge amount of value. Now, Kacie, I've got this question for you now. So Tony Robbins famously said, if you're not growing, you are dying. So I think we can say that personally and also from a business point of view. Now, the business has grown exponentially over the last 20 years since you started that planning decades ago, and that's still at a level of financial scale. In your view, is it equally as important to grow personally and as a family as it is to grow the scale of the business and the financial stream?
I think I'll hark back to what I said at the beginning, that it's one thing to build an empire, but it would be bloody lonely to be sitting at the table by yourself with an empire at your fingertips. And I think unless you get that communication right, and for us, getting the communication right meant getting ourselves educated, and we couldn't have done that by just reading a book. We actually went and firstly through RCS, we did a lot of different courses. Ardie and I made sure we did all the same courses, so we actually, because both of us are very different people and we hear and see different things, but at the end of the day, we could know what the other was thinking. When we started doing personal development courses, the kids then in Ardie and I started, and then the kids in later years have all done the same courses. So we're all on the same page in terms of communication. And I can't stress enough the importance of getting that communication right in your family. And again, I'll go back to our family meetings and the importance, unbeknownst to us then, it just seemed like a good idea at the time, and that's why we went ahead with it. But what we actually said in those early meetings was to the kids the importance of open, honest communication in family, because that's what makes the difference.
Thanks, Kacie. And one of the things that came out for me when we talked was the fact that there was a real culture in the family of always growing. So personally, so growing the business, so we need to be personally growing, and then a real culture of personal accountability and responsibility. That seemed to absolutely shine through for me, Kacie. So that was a really important to take away. Now, Ardie, first and last, get to that bookend this in, off-farm siblings. How do we deal with them? Because there's minor, more often than not, for families on the land, how the bloody hell do we deal with off-farm siblings? You know, we've got someone coming back on the land, we've got to deal with that, but how do we deal with the off-farm? And it adds a level of stress, it adds a level of complexity, and the number one thing always sums up, I hear this, does it have to be equal to be fair? And how do we do this? So, Ardie, I know you guys have done a huge amount of work around this, and the off-farm, I'll say kids, adult children, are just as important to the family business as on-farm. So how have you addressed this with the family, and how did you get there?
It's pretty simple. First thing is that I'd like to define a couple of things. Before we talk about roles and responsibilities, that in our business, we've got landowners, we've got business owners, which I think of Jade, they own the cows and all that now. We lease our land to them, and we have stakeholders. And Zara and Ali and the youngest, as of last week, our situation changed because we now have another family. Our youngest daughter got engaged last week, still we've got another couple that want to be on the land. So it's an evolving process. So from the upcoming of the year, we'll have meetings, which is Nikko, Jade, Kacie and I, and then the outside executive under our board for the pastoral business. I work with both our siblings. Kacie and I support our siblings and then have been invested in their businesses, in the girls' businesses. So we have a role very much there that we very much most of that with that journey. But they're also stakeholders in the business. In other words, we have a suppose of it as stage to them. We've given them this opportunity. We've given Nikko opportunity and girls opportunity to their future and delegate. The other thing I would say very much is that there's been no promise. There's been any of them come home and work in the business. They're paid to work in the business. And their package may include security and the ability to buy land as it goes down to what Zara said. So we haven't given a lot to them at this stage. It's a pretty handy, a fair bit of very useful opportunity.
And so has, just for everyone here, so when you have family meetings, is everyone involved in those family meetings? Do we have different meetings for different things?
Absolutely. For instance, I attended a lot of meetings, but we have Lord Pastoral, which is Jade, running that, and luckily at this stage we're still on the board. We haven't kicked us off. Probably invite a couple others on. I'm a grafter today at my change. It could change any day. He's offered it to him. Zara, I'm the director on there with a couple of other external, the same with Howard. So we're involved in that process and we're financially tied into all three from the spirit point of view. To me, one of the great things that will enable that is the separation of who owns the business, who owns AN, who owns that. And they're all looking where they're going. So they're very clear about what the future is. The second side of that question is that our family charter meetings, which Nikko was talking about before, is just a process of someone externally poking and asking, what do you think about this? How does that lie with how does that fit with you? So that they're not fighting with 20 years' time and has the right. So that's really important, is to ask and to listen. That's something professional doing it.
That was the thing that came through, was whatever happened, you always went out and to do that. And I'm guessing that allowed you then to have those discussions and someone else to be able to ask sometimes the difficult questions or the elephants of room that somebody may now. Excellent. So we're starting to get towards the end to questions. I hope, I guess everyone's got a million of them. But what I want to do is just a quick fire one as we come towards the end. And I'd like to get one gold nugget or one little piece of advice we could give everyone here in the crowd, or one learning that we've had over the last X amount of years going through this process. And can I start with you, Nikko?
That uncomfortableness that sits in your guts, that's growth. And I think in life today, we do everything to be more comfortable and to avoid struggle. But I believe that that's when a lot of what's made us is that we don't shy away from the little things as a kid. That's pick up the phone and have a conversation, do shit, but that uncomfortableness and struggle that's been. And so we've always been able to way out through that.
It's interesting, Nikko, just from my observation, and I'm a parent, I have a very headstrong 7-year-old, but quite often we shy away from those difficult things, don't we? And we want to help our children and not let them fail, not let them learn those lessons. So I think that's a really important point to have. And sometimes that's a compensation. And I love that idea of that uncomfortable feeling is growth. Kacie, would you like to share any gold nugget before we wind up?
I have this thing, what have I got to do today so all our family are having Christmas together in 20 years' time? Whenever there's a difficult conversation, it's who do I have to be in this conversation to make sure the outcome is a good one so we're all having Christmas together in 20 years' time. For me, it's a benchmark that for me really works. It really pulls me into line. It makes me stay in the conversation when I don't want to stay in the conversation, but I will, because I know that I need to stay in this conversation to resolve it so that we're all having Christmas together in 20 years' time. For me, that little benchmark really works.
No, that's fantastic. And I love that little yardstick, because if you can continually think like that, because I think everyone here would agree that that's usually the yardstick of how prosperous our family's going. Because when I ask families and I say, well, what does prosperity look like? And invariably everyone says, you will sit around the kitchen table Christmas time and navigates each other. And I think it's a really good measure. It's like a barometer of how well we're going. Thanks, Jason. What about you, Ardie? What's the gold nugget?
The gold nugget was found at a client from Nikko about a year ago. And he said, "Oh, well, you probably had your race yet." And I said, "You better watch out, I might get a bit better." Look after the yellow. For us, Kacie and I, we've done first. We've done the hard work we've implemented. The kids made it said that, and they're very nice there. But it's not about financial or not about who we knew. It's about us having choices. Very much about us having choices to be first. The little story that we went down to Pomeranill, they go over the new house a few months ago, and about a month later, Kacie back was homesick. She said, "This is great, it's lovely, it's social, but I need a bit of purpose too." So, she, next thing is we go back up to Richmond, she took 6,000 metres to break in, and has 3 little grandkids to educate, and or to play with, and that's really important. So, for me, the older generation comes first. Set up a playing group for the others to row their boat.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Ardie, because I think that's a big problem for a lot of people as they get older. It's like, if I do succession plan or I hand over or I hand on, step back, whatever the words I want to use, what the hell is going to be my purpose in life? Is that a signal to the universe to say, right, I'm done, I'm out, take me away? How did you go transitioning from being, holding onto the reins and to then stepping back? How did you find that purpose, Ardie?
A bit difficult. No doubts about that. But we go and work together, and certainly our roles and those things certainly hold that. But also being clear about what I want to do. And both Kacie and I are clear where we want to be, where we don't want to be, and whether you're available or whether we're not available, and we get certainty to accept very well. And so, each day, I don't need to be that busy doing lots of the day-to-day or being involved, and I'm really enjoying not being employing people, not really adding deals, and not really adding quotas and things to break down. So we operate at that level of just being landlord with people. And particularly where we see that at least in all our years, probably almost to be with that.
Did it take a bit of time, Nikko, for that to find its purpose and sort of, shall we say, agreeing to step back, but actually stepping back? Did it take a little bit of time?
Yeah, it did. Like every son will probably say that, I think, but Dad, you got to let go. We did have to come back and whatnot, and we came this great work, but when we stopped pointing the finger a bit and looked at myself a bit more, and I realised that once I stepped up late, probably gave him with comfortableness to step back and on board. And then I just once we got through that, and we are actually all living back on the same station, and Mum and Dad are there, and sister's been, she's now engaged to my right-hand man, we've got the grandkids, so we're all on the same station. I thought 6 years ago I couldn't have painted a worse picture for him. But it's where we want to be. None of us are really relying on each other. They come and go as they please, and they let me know that they want to work. And very grateful to have them coming and going. And I look at that now, and I think, Jesus Christ, it's been a rocky road, but we've all stayed in it, and couldn't be happier to even have my sister back in a place, and the opportunity, if we choose to go in a partnership, because we're going to partner there and track, and it's a really, really nice place to be. And I think it actually, one of our strongest draw cards with our staff, we're not competing with the mines with gear we got busted last year, mediocre pay and whatnot. It still gets good in or not, but one of our biggest draw cards is the quality of life and getting these fellas, teaching them financial literacy, teaching them, how to and smile with the face all day long, how to have the reason why we love what we do is the quality of life, and to be able to see a bunch of fellas who would go to war for us tomorrow is pretty less fair. But that comes from fairly right. It's the first thing I want to say. I guess they feel the love. And one more thing, I was taught that no one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's the start with family. You got to show that you care before it makes something less.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Thanks, everyone. We're right on time for some questions. So I don't know who, there's some microphones floating out there. Does anyone want to put their hand up for a question?
Hi, mate, it's a general story. We're about to go into the parts that you're well down.
And I just find that I was pretty interested in your talking about personal development, because I think that's being able to communicate is such a strong need in that situation. Where do you go, or who did you use to do that personal growth stuff with? Because that's not that easy to find. We started with RCS in the 90s, and we worked with a woman called Lynn Sykes, and we did Lynn's family facilitation workshop, and that stuff's been my bent, so I naturally gravitated towards that. But Ardie also came and did the same work. And from there, we then did a course called Landmark Education, which was our first foray into something quite different, where they take you through a process where then you find out, they call your XYZ moments, which are stories that run your mind. And often it's those stories in your head that bear no relevance to rational being that run your mind. And until we resolve those, often that's what stops us. And from then we've gone on to do a lot of other work, some of it pretty raw, but a lot of good stuff out there. Real education, there's a lot of good idea coach, a 6-month coach training program through real education. So yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it afterwards. There's really good stuff out there, and I encourage you to do it, but get the whole family to do it, not just you.
I really like the fact that everyone got involved.
Just like to add to that, we have a partnership business too. They've got another couple of little bit of, they could be in partnership for 22 years. A lot of people sort of say, God, partnership. It's one of the most crucial things in your life, like an emotional. But in that journey, we've all been through those journeys. I think it started off where it was a dog was a bolt, and then we learned to the horse, and then we learned to manage a bit of grass, and then we learned to manage a bit of business. And then, when I did RCS, I learned a bit about managing people and communicating. But in the end, it's just here. There's only one thing that had to change, one thing I could work with, and it became me. And for all of us here, and now we've got some siblings, and daughter of the Lord, son of the Lord, that they keep us accountable, and they coach us about being me on centre. And if there's anything else that's not, it's about when anyone steps off centre in that family, which is the aggressive, noisy, big wave, which is a stronger, that maybe just nails it and pulls it back up instead of seeing it up, feeling. And that's the most powerful thing that happens in business, because we're doing with what I said at the beginning, this emotional melting pot of family with all this stuff in their head, trying to business. We have to deal with that before we start running business. That's the point.
I get a lot of people say, how am I going to get my partner or this person to go and do this sort of stuff? And it's actually like it's. I remember when we first came through it, you come out and it's like a sales pitch. You tell it everyone you should go and do this. No one likes to be told to go and do something. Straight away, they just anything all. And after about a year, you don't even realise it, but I subconsciously just start talking about what it had done for me, and in that all of a sudden, and I never got anyone to be able to do with that. So we thinking I'm doing a good thing, and then all of a sudden I'd be getting these fellas ringing me, and I would have had a rodeo or something, and somehow I must have been talking about all the problems in my life. And they'd ring me like the next week, I've let this happen like 3 or 4 times. You were telling me about some course and getting it, helped out. And it was amazing how much people were listening now all of a sudden when I was just vulnerable talking about, my relationships. And all of a sudden, and then guys who, you would not think of listening. Well, you didn't even realise they're talking good about you. You'll get vulnerable. And all of a sudden, it's so many mates in different corners of the world. And it's generally when they let some stuff go wrong, they're vulnerable, and they go. And it's just what I say to everyone, go and do it yourself, and then just be a better person yourself. And people will be like, hey, what are you doing? It's not, why is that not working for you? And people want to do it. They see it. That's the only way I reckon it works.
Any other questions? Got to be a few more out there. Oh, yeah, we've got a gentleman over there.
How you facilitate, did you get the first part statement? So if you've already facilitated Nikko with his wife leasing land and owning cattle, now you have a sibling coming back wanting to go onto the land. How would you facilitate that?
Good question. I guess, firstly, we separated the land and we sold the Nikko and Jade hours and Legacies and Port Baby. We haven't sold it any land. And Nikko first came home 12 years ago, he got the opportunity to buy it. We were expanding and bought a place. He got support 110% of the debt. And the property in his name. So they kept him honest and kept him. So he had a purpose. He was managing our asset. At that stage, basically, I owned the hours and all that stuff. So for 10 years, he's abstracted. He needed a lease to pay interest bills and all his costs. And I said, that's fine. We'll pay that. If you're managing, you say you better pay us the same value. I said, so it put a immense pressure on the business to perform. You don't go and buy shares if you had fair West Harpers and don't want the dividend check, do you? So we said the same thing to him, no problem, just pay us the dividend. And secondly, in succession, being an opportunity to invest, you get stuff, gets asset on his kid name at a young age. I think for the girls, part of our job as the nine is to protect each other, protect everyone in the family, including yourself. So, I guess some of the properties will be bought will go to the girls. Or in that process over the next 6 months or soon. So all that's been talked about, decided over the last 5 years. And everyone's really comfortable about where they're going. But I guess one way, Kacie and I are landlords to the business that Nikko and Jade run. Nikko's a landlord to the business and he's got to wear two hats. The girls are stakeholders eventually where they have their interests looked after. And there's some equity in a way that being allocated there to go and chase their dreams and build what they do. Kacie and I made a little thing that we wanted to create and be profitable enough that we could offer kids to go into business if they chose. I did in my wildest dreams think 3 of them would go into business. And we'd be in their backing that that's what happened and it's good. So we'll probably even need it prettier, but we kept it commercial from the time they were at school. They came on the holidays, whether they worked or not, we paid them enough. That's the money they took back and they lived on with the home. And most of their work.
Well, I hope that episode lived up to all your expectations. I know it did mine. Now, just before we sign off, it's been a long episode, but I'd love it if you could share the podcast with as many people as you possibly can. I think for me, this has been one of the resources that I've wanted to put together about what a succession plan should look like. And I think if you could share this with your family and friends or anyone else you happen to know, that would be absolutely amazing. Now, that's it for today. I'll see you next time.